Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Life Stories. My name is Trent and I hope you guys are all doing awesome as always. Today, we got some stories coming at you from Reddit/idontworkherelady. So without further ado, let's get it started. Our first story of the day is titled, Customers Just Won't Quit. This happened after the POS company I was service manager at went belly up and I was between jobs. So, the company that had been around since the 50s and its clientele was a mix of companies that had been around forever and being run by old codgers who knew the founder, and new businesses who needed it up and running now, and usually were back out of business before the second payment was due. This particular client was one of the former. We'll call her Mrs. K. She was a 40-something Asian woman running a market in an upscale part of the area. She had bought her digital POS system back in the 70s and had seen no need at all to upgrade. Seeing as it was now 1989, this meant that we, meaning I, were the only company who could or would service them. And yes, she was very much a Karen in the wild. I had worked for the company for 7 years until that one fine day I was asked to hand in my pager. The company had gone under and I was out of a job. I was also warned that I should not try to find another job in this field, as they were listing the customer list as part of the company's assets, and if I took that knowledge to a potential buyer, it could open me to litigation. Probably BS, but fine. I was done with customer support. Customers really are the worst. I was looking to shift to a new field, eventually finding a gig in telecom, but that's not relevant to the story. I'm sitting in my apartment, looking through the want ads, and then my phone rings. I answer, hoping it's an interview offer, but no, it's Mrs. K. Her registers were down, and she wanted me to come fix them. Right. I was, and still am, speechless. She found out the company was no longer there, and somehow, in the pre-internet days, found my home phone number. It wasn't even listed in the name I used at the company. My best guess is she called everyone with my relatively common surname in the phone book for the city the company was in. So, after some unpleasantries, I decided this had to be the end of it. But I knew she'd never stop calling me unless I put a nail in it. I agreed to come down to her store. It was, and still is, a nice drive, and a day on the shore of the bay would be nice anyway. I told her, though, if it was programming, I could fix it. But if it was anything that required parts, they were dead and was going to stay that way. And I would need cash payment at the company's old after-hours rate. I got there, and it was a mix of issues on her 3 machines. I got one machine Frankenstein together using parts from the other 2, but I told her that that was the end, and I could no longer support her machines. Well, machine. I asked for my company's bill rate in cash. And to her credit, she did hand me $250 in cash. Nice. Much better than what I'd been making an hour. She did try and get me a couple more times, but I always politely refused. A few months later, I moved and got a new phone number, and that was the end. I don't think she ever replaced that poor machine. The store is now owned by a high-end chain market, so I'm hoping Mrs. K is enjoying her retirement and won't come back to pester me again. Man, I worked tech support, and it was bad. I cannot imagine working tech support in '89. How much harder could it have been? Ugh. Even less people knew about computers back then. Anyway, moving along, our next story is titled, No, You Cannot Fire Me. This is a story almost 12 years old. It's not the typical I Don't Work Here Lady story, but I believe it fits in this sub. First, the stage. A private elementary school. The kind a regular family would need to sell a kidney to afford. Its name is Seeking Knowledge in free translation, but with a little twist can be heard as White Knowledge, and it gained it fair and square. This school has found a place to build in the middle of a quite poor neighborhood, causing all sorts of strange incidents. This is one of those. It starts with Karen, a mother to a 5-year-old son who lives by the school. And she also happens to be, well, African descendant, body color and all. She comes one day to register her beloved son, who shall be called Kevin, to this school right across the street. The son is tested, and though at 5 you can't really tell, he seems to be a real Kevin, barely ready for school. But at this school, what really needs to be ready is the parent's wallet. If this is ready, they will make a rocket scientist out of any Kevin. But there is the problem. Karen can't afford it. She asks about the scholarship program. Now, the school Friends Society does have such programs, but it's for actual genius kids the school feels will give it some fame. Not for any Kevin from the hood. So the question is turned off. No scholarship for you, Karen. Karen still wants her son to be in this school, but without money and no scholarship, what can she do? She decided to detonate the nuke. She played the race card. Crying, she told to the TV reporters how the stone-hearted principal rejected her only for being black, etc. You get the idea. The story went ballistic. All the local news outlets covered it. It started to get national. News cameras were stationed right on the school gates, trying to catch some photo of the stone-hearted principal and staff. Well, that's why you don't mess with rich people. In less than 30 minutes, a lawyer appeared in front of the cameras, accompanied with police. Apparently, it's very illegal to picture children without permission, and there are a few regulations about cameras in a school area. All the press photographers were detained and forced to wipe their camera's memory card or be arrested and charged with child abuse. Later, they were given an area where they could stand at the entrance to the streets. Any press member equipped with recording devices or cameras who entered the street could be arrested and charged. The press people were not happy. They were even less happy to find they did not get a single picture of any of the staff, and they wanted it badly, especially the principal. She was headed to be crucified. All this commotion went high up to the Ministry of Education, where the local elementary school superintendent decided she would gain some positive PR by putting this heartless principal in her place. A letter calling the principal to a hearing was sent from the superintendent. Miraculously, it was published before it even got to the school, setting an appointment and a hearing before firing for the principal. The media was celebrating. The day of the hearing, they set up cameras outside the superintendent's office, hoping to get the defeated principal live. To everybody's surprise, she didn't show up. She did the same and sent a letter to the superintendent and the press, saying words we all like to hear. "Lady, I don't work here." In her finer legal terms, she threatened to sue the superintendent for harassment and misconduct, as she tried to flex her authority over something she wasn't supposed to. Now, this is also a termination offense, and the principal obviously had some serious lawyers to demand that. Epilogue. No one was fired, but a couple of years later, the school accepted the Ministry of Education authority and also agreed to accept some percentage of its students under public funding, meaning even poor Kevin has an opportunity to study there now, if he's lucky. Well, I mean, the sad part is such biases do definitely exist in our society, but I can only hope with that reform that kids were able to get in there. Everyone needs an education. It's very important. And with that out of the way, we have time for one more small story. This one's titled, "This Isn't Even a Store, Lady." A few summers ago, my family had a garage sale, and my mom decided to put out a set of bed sheets that she didn't want anymore, but were still in decent shape. A few hours into the sale, a group of women came by, and I saw one of them examining the sheets. She looked them over, then clicked her tongue and turned to me. "Do you have any other sheets?" Not that are for sale, ma'am." "But you must have more sheets." "Well, yes, but they're our sheets. We're using them. They're not for sale." "Can't you check and make sure there aren't any others?" At this point, I had no idea how to respond. She was essentially asking me to check in the back. I've worked customer service, and that was very much her attitude. But this was in my own house. I went and got my mom, who was even more confused than I was, but firmly reiterated that, yes, these were the only sheets we were selling, and no, this woman could not go through our linen closet and make us an offer. Apparently, this made the lady realize she wasn't going to get anywhere, because she shook her head at us, gathered her friends, and left. Glaring. In my time recording for this channel for all you lovely people, I have seen Karens do all number of ridiculous things, especially in a retail environment. I have never seen, to this day, until now, a Karen ask someone to check the back of their own house. That is not how it works. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. Okay, maybe not ruin that bad. We'll go sleep it off. But regardless, we're out of time for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of you so much for tuning in to another episode of Life Stories. You know how this thing goes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way. My name is Trent, and I hope to see you guys soon.